Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Middle Division Finals of Scenario Performance at this IC. The numbers grow each year. We have 17, I think it is, competitors. Huge increase from last year, which is wonderful. So I'm just going to go through a couple of things for the audience. I've talked to the competitors and some of these things they'll have heard previously. So audience, some people have asked, can they video their own child's performance? The answer is no, and it's a legal thing to do with what FPSPI is able to record this and live stream it, but nobody else. So it is a legal issue, but you'll have two ways of getting a video. It's being live streamed by Cameron up the back. We know that it is working well this year, but Sharon and Beth are also videoing it, so that there'll be a backup of that. And so every person will have their performance fully videoed, and you can go back and see it. So it's this is a relatively new part of FPS. The inaugural competition was 2015 at International. It was designed by FPSPI Australia to develop and sustain the tradition of storytelling as opposed to story writing. So the emphasis is very much on the use of how you actually convey that story through oral means rather than the written words. The topics are chosen on the same basis as the ones used for scenario writing, so there will be a variety of stories actually told here. The winners are from affiliate level, then get the invitation to compete at IC, just as with all the other divisions. Then what happens though is that all those who are invited to IC about 4 or 5 weeks prior to IC get instructions about a subtopic to do with the IC topic. So criminal justice was the broad topic, and they were given more specific instructions about the kinds of ideas or directions which their story might take. So these stories have been written within about 3 or 4 weeks. Okay, and the idea is that they perform them first for the first time here. They have 5 minutes to complete their performances. A coloured card or a folder will be held up at 4 minutes 30. They can only use 10 cue cards, and technology and body movements are not allowed. So it's again very much a focus on the use of the storytelling abilities in voice. And the performers will come up from this side, my left, and go off on the right-hand side. We're going to be in for a wonderful afternoon of storytelling, and I'd like you to welcome all our finalists and give them one big applause, because they all are champions. So I will move off, and the first person, judges, I'll be ready for number one. First person up.
Madam Speaker, Vice President Oliver, members of Congress, distinguished guests, and fellow Americans. It has been 10 years since the virtual reality world known as the Rift was first launched to the public. And in those 10 years, the Rift has done what took Earth 4 billion. It has every nuance of human life down to a T. While we can mostly use this to do fun things like bungee jump on Niagara Falls or travel the world, or even watch tonight's State of the Union address, which many of you are doing right now through the Rift. But it has also ushered in a brand new era of crime. Now, simulated crime has been around for as long as video games have. However, crime in the Rift is at a whole new level. Consider the fact that some American citizens, even some watching right now, have completely abandoned life in the real world, bearing some necessities, of course. While you might wince at the idea of this, it's a valid thing. Some of these people are hard workers. They're equal to us. Some of them even have families. It is simply a new way of life that the U.S. government must accommodate, and that means we must tweak the criminal justice system in order to properly protect these Rift citizens, as we call them. However, video games are incredibly difficult for the U.S. government to regulate, thanks to many Supreme Court rulings of the past. However, at this point, I think it's vital to understand that the Rift is no longer just a video game. It's a new plane of existence, and should be governed as such. Now, we have many kinks to work out before we can fully establish a criminal justice system in the Rift. Now, first of all is our digital jurisdiction. Now, it may be obvious. We only have power over those with United States IP addresses. However, it's a little more complicated than that. Consider the fact that other governments don't really have justice systems for digital worlds like this. So maybe a Brazilian citizen in the Rift could commit a crime against a U.S. citizen. And that man in his home country will see no punishment whatsoever. Does that give us the right to put him in prison for his crime? Now, another issue we're going to have to deal with is the severity of the punishment. Now, is it really deserving of 50 years in prison for killing an in-game avatar? Do you really deserve that hard of a punishment for simply erasing someone's digital assets? To some, this may seem like just a harmless prank, something undeserving of any kind of punishment. But for the victims, this is a serious issue. It's very life-threatening. And finally, we're going to have to strike some sort of deal with the developers for the Rift. Now, thanks to the Rift's innovative development code, we're going to have to make a deal with every single Rift developer if we want to get anything passed. But think about this. These are all their own unique corporations with their own interests. Do you really think they're going to come together for the greater good? That's a little unlikely. Now for the state of art. We warned you. The Rift was made for the unhinged, the ungovernable. It was an escape from the world that the justice system has tarnished. And the U.S. government will ruin it. Be careful, Mr. President. Swag. That's over.
Iris, one day people are going to get too excited over technological advancements, causing robots to take over the world. But we can stop that from happening, right? People aren't that dumb. Yes, they are. My dad flew me all the way to my college campus in his iDrone. My seatbelt's unsolidified once we landed. Dad, when are you visiting? Probably next month, honey. I'll be off work sometime then. But why don't they just let you off now while you're still here? My lab mates are getting far too impatient for that. We're almost done with our new program, my father sighed. I knew he was really worried about this new program. Once it was complete, it was going to be applied to human-resembling robots. Crime had been far too common lately. Everywhere you went, you had to bring a friend or you totally could have gotten mugged or something. The government was concerned that the police force we had at the time was not enough to keep the people under control. Therefore, they commissioned my dad's lab to create new robots with police skill programs to aid the police. At the time, I thought it was just my dad's opinion brainwashing me or something, but I did understand the problem and I was concerned too. I'd say the real issues began around Christmas break. Bailey! I ran into my roommate's arms. How was your holidays? As my bubbly friend babbled on about her lovely Christmas break, I couldn't help but feel a little emotional. My Christmas hadn't been the same way. I was upstairs playing my piano when I heard a distant crash in the street below me. I looked out my apartment window. It appeared that the roof of my dad's lab had collapsed. Police cars and ambulances surrounded my dad's lab. They would get him out, right? Wrong. There were no survivors that day, other than the RoboCops. After this event, the bots found in the scene had minimal to no damage, and this was the problem. They'd survived the collapse when no person did. This led people to believe that if these bots were so strong and they had the capability of being police, then what was the point of risking the lives of actual people when it came to crime situations? Citizens surrounded my dad's lab every day rioting. If these police robots had no emotions or empathy, how could they possibly be trusted with police authority? I remember stopping at a convenience store to grab some snacks for my trip back to college when a man behind me got arrested by a RoboCop for grand theft. Grand theft? Not even close. There was no panic detected, no tension detected. How could he possibly be a thief? Apparently the programmer who programmed the robot before they died, tragically, must have linked some coincidental details to grand theft. This was a malfunction. Faulty robots had replaced the police force, and there was no stopping them. I can't believe it's been 4 years since my dad died and the RoboCops took over. Every time I see one, it reminds me of the tragedy that rips my dad away from me. Now that I've graduated from college, I have a full-time job in my own lab where I work with robots similarly to how my dad did. But I work with a special kind. I've created a new set of rules to represent the empathy that these robots will never have. I'm not making them smarter, I'm just making them more sensible. My hope is that one day I can sneak this technology into the RoboCops. Maybe then they won't be able to take immediate actions, especially when they have no right to. You're under arrest for drug possession, the robot murmured. Would you like to inspect them? I shoved the powder at the robot. I used the hacking codes that took 4 years of study to perfect and removed the minuscule chip from the bot. What is this? The bot demanded, paralyzed. Once we reached the lab, I plugged my robo-chip into my iTab. I added an empty add-on shell to the chip, filling it with the new program that had taken me 4 years to perfect. I turned to the bot and entered in my edited chip. Miss, is there a problem? Why am I here? It spoke. I was just fixing something for you. I activated my Kinect-powered magnet that would attract the metallic paralyzer. You can return to patrol now, I said. The bot left. One detail that I just happened to leave out was that I added something else into the software. It was a new plug-in software that would cause the robot to spread my new edits to whatever robots that passed by, so that my add-on would spread between any robots like a virus. Turns out in the end that my add-on worked. Now, humans and robots work together to protect the world. Humans always being a higher power, of course. I know I helped solve our little crime problem from 4 years ago, and our new robot problem that appeared. And I know my dad would be proud of me.
Booting personal interface, January 3rd, 2049. Okay, Mom, you have no idea how excited I am to start my new job with the New York Police Department as a RoboCop controller, which is literally me controlling a robot cop. I know you regretted sending me to the Institute for Police Technology, but it's paid off. Today, I'll be going through the linking ceremony in which my life will be connected to a robot cop. And tomorrow, I'm officially on the force. It's so mesmerizing to see the large control rooms filled with dedicated people controlling robocops that are miles away to help our city. And not to mention some of the most advanced technology at our disposal. Okay, I get it. I know that you think it's dangerous, especially with the fact that I will lose my life if my RoboCop is destroyed. But you shouldn't be worried. No one has gotten killed since the release of RoboCops 2 years ago. And also, these robots are made of graphene, the strongest material in the universe. I'm 100% safe. Don't worry about me. Well, the next time I talk to you, I'll officially be a RoboCop controller. Love you. Close interface. Booting personal interface, February 17th, 2049. I'm sorry that it's been more than a month since I've talked to you, but I'm doing fine. It's just that work is really, really stressful. Last week, our department took on the case of R3P64, an artificial intelligence robot that has only one goal in mind: to kill. It's already escaped from the factories and wreaked total havoc upon New York, and my team has been told to apprehend it. I have faith in my RoboCops. I mean, we've gone undefeated. And besides, R3P64 can't be that scary. Honestly, it looks more like a scrap of metal to me. I'll talk to you later. Close interface. Booting personal interface, March 28th, 2049. Today, I went on my first mission for our R3P64 case. Although we didn't catch it, I was able to use our advanced Sonar X system to track down its location. Tomorrow, I'll get to lead the squad to attack and apprehend it. This is it. My dream, what I've been working for this entire time, has come together. I'll tell you tomorrow what happens. Something very interesting should. And hopefully by then, R3P64 will be long gone. Love you. Close interface. Booting personal interface, April 5th, 2049. I'm sorry that it's been a couple of days. The mission was a failure. My team and I arrived early on the morning of March 29th at R3P64's previous location, and it was there. We tried to use our VTech swarmer to shut down its main system, but it had a piece of technology that we didn't know it had, and we've never encountered it before. It took the energy given off of our swarmer and made itself stronger instead. When we noticed this, we ran for our lives, except for one of my squad mates, Glenn. His RoboCop was snatched up and destroyed between R3P64's pincers, which I don't understand how it happened, but now it has. Glenn's the first person to die from having their RoboCop destroyed. I guess history's been made, and it's all my fault. It's just, it happened all so quickly, and I need some time to take it in. Talk to you later. Close interface. Booting personal interface, April 7th, 2049. I'm officially off the squad. The chief came in this morning and told me I had to go because I hadn't taken enough precaution in preventing Glenn's death. I underestimated R3P64. Even though we had so much technology at our disposal, one robot still overshadowed us all. I guess it's your turn to say I told you so, but whatever you say, Mom, I still love you. Bye. Close interface. Thank you.
I wake up in a sweat. My fingers are tingling, and I can feel the room spinning. As I sit up, I can hear a few birds chirping outside as the sun beams through. But I can't think. What I read yesterday was terrible. I intercepted a message from my boss, Jamie Fuller, the CEO of Diamond Industries, about her paying off judges to send more people to jail. Just for some silly web show Wired Online, which shows continuous footage of criminals, augmented reality in jails. And she gets more money from every view. I feel my blood starting to boil from anger. I transport to the central base of our town to pick up my required nutrients for the day, until I see a much bigger commotion than usual. The robocops that patrol the city seem to be very hyperactive, and some are even shutting down. I push past the crowd until more and more robocops seem to be shutting down, along with other technologies, fountains, cars, traffic lights. I run like a madman to find whoever is doing this, and I know who it is as soon as I see her. Jamie Fuller. She would be doing this to destroy all the evidence against her. I yell out to the crowd and everyone turns around. All of a sudden, something cold grabs my hand and everything goes dark. I wake up in a pitch black room. Something hairy begins to crawl up my arm and I let out a giant scream. It's a spider. Flicking and flinching, I throw the spider across the room and lights come on. A camera sits in front of me as I'm lowered over a large pit. Out of nowhere, a lion jumps at me and tries to attack me. I jump from my chair and begin to run far away from that lion. Once I turn a corner and try to catch my breath, I think how familiar this looks. I'm in Wired Online. That is why the camera was sitting in front of me. That is why I'm facing my fears. But why was I arrested? Jamie must have done this. She must have known I was going to try to stop her, but was one step ahead of me. Suddenly, a large alarm goes off outside, and I hear lots of screaming panic. This is not a drill. This is an evacuation. The simulation shuts off and a door from almost nowhere opens. I hear a large crowd rushing outside and I push through to join them. Without warning, I see a few people exiting the crowd and going down a secret corridor. I decide to follow them. A boy in front of me turns around, but he keeps running. We reach a door at the end of the corridor, which leads us to the outside. Within the blink of an eye, the boy is gone, and I am out in the open, alone in the middle of the night. I run as fast as I can back to my compound. What just happened? I sit down and think, but in the back of my mind, I know I have to find those messages I intercepted. I push through lots of holographic notes and messages until I find the one I want. The one that incriminates Jamie Fuller. And the one I'm going to show to everyone. I transport to the central base and there's a large crowd hovering around awaiting the usual address. I take this time to grab their attention and head to the podium. Everything that Jamie Fuller has done was just for her gain. She has corrupted her business and the justice system. I tell the crowd everything. No one can believe what he's saying, but for once I'm heard. For once, everyone listens to me and they trust me. Later that day, Jamie Fuller was arrested and sent to a high security jail. Diamond Industries was shut down and my jail record was expunged. Wired Online was also terminated. From this experience, people realized that the justice system was not perfect, but with honesty, trust, intelligence, and even hindsight, it would go on to survive. I'm happy that fear isn't used as a way to punish people anymore, as a steady hand and positive reinforcement is the way of the future. Something hairy begins to crawl at my arm, and I let out a giant scream. Thank you.
I, Alex Yarrow, am a genius. You may call me conceited, but you try passing all of high school at the age of just 14. Even that, I flew through all the years of law school and the preparation for it in just a further 2 years. I was well on my way to becoming a brilliant lawyer, my dreams finally coming true. I was young, open-minded, and new to the world, fresh out of law school. I gracefully accepted my first client, only to find that being a lawyer was incredibly, inarguably, and insurmountably boring. In a courtroom, all there was for me to do was to simply state the facts that someone else had already discovered, which is not what I wanted to be doing. With automated judges simply analyzing statistics, the only thing I could do was to try to convince them, even though they have no emotion, that my client was not, in fact, guilty, even though they actually were. Needless to say, the very next day, I'd quit my tedious job, and I was well on the way to becoming a brilliant field detective. That was a much better idea. A field detective, why didn't I think of it before? With a brilliant mind as absorbent as my own, I could do whatever I wanted, and I'd be able to do it brilliantly. Of course, I would need a partner, but James was the only possible option. He understood things that I said, so it worked. Tearing through cases with the ferocity of an automaton, I quickly became the best lawyer in the entire state of New York, possibly the country. That's how I got to the current case I'm on, probably the most dangerous of all. James and I were sitting in the back of the coffee shop, sitting at one of the two-man tables, pretending to be on a date, one of my more clever ideas. The automated staff pretend that they're human, but everyone knows they're not actually. The robots actually do understand a small amount of human emotion. Therefore, by pretending to be on a date, they would file that above any other more suspicious activity of ours. He says, "Hey Alex, I heard your little sister is planning on getting your mother a beautiful purple hat for her birthday. Is this true?" He knows fully well I'm an only child. He's trying to send a message. I glance around the room, and my police-distributed contacts alert me that the couple in the corner is actually a pair of nanotech smugglers, the very people we're here to find. I turn and look him right back in the eye. Yes, that is true. She's also learning Greek. She knows all the letters up to Plan Kappa. Plan Kappa, that's the word. He immediately curses under his breath. He hates Plan Kappa. I approach the couple of outlaws and say, hi, my boyfriend and I were just wondering if you could tell us where you got that watch. I mean, it's so expensive. How could you not have stolen it? At my use of the word stealing, they immediately react, their hands shooting to their pockets and their eyes to James. Trying to ease the conversation, I wave over to James, but my cuff slips back onto my shirt, revealing the nanotech cuff I wear on my wrist in place of a police belt. So, we can either do this the easy way or the hard way. Which would you like it? Instantly, they run. Why do they always choose the hard way? Immediately reacting, I flick my wrist and the cuff overrides the staff's coding. They immediately escort all of the citizens to safety. That helps out a bit, but we still have to chase after them. We chase them through the corridors of the back rooms, only to find that they've disappeared through one of the many exits. What do we do now? James asks. Don't be an idiot, James. Everyone gives off heat, do they not?
With another flick of the wrist, I change our electric contacts into infrared vision. It's quite simple to track them after that. All we have to do is follow the walking gait of the size of the woman's shoes. It's quite simple, actually. After many more twists and turns, we finally arrive in the room that they must be in. James kicks down the door, and a cloud of dust rises up. I cough and clear my throat, the debris brushing from my eyes. But I'm not happy with what I see. The woman, Margaret Gardens, has grabbed James and is holding a gun to his head. We pull out our stunners, but it's too late. She hits him over the back of the head with it, and he's bleeding on the floor. I manage to knock both of them out, but it may be too late for James. I'm barely able to croak out the single word, James, before the police arrive. We weren't able to save him.
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. I'm here today to demonstrate why you need to approve the proposed expansion of our Crime Prevention Technology Department. I could cite numerous impressive studies that support the value of technology in the criminal justice system. But instead, I want to share a story about a little girl, a stolen necklace, and the value of technology in crime solving. In May 2028, I was assigned a home burglary to investigate. Since it appeared to be such a minor case, I thought I would make a quick visit to the crime scene, allocate minimal resources to it, and move on to the next case. Once I arrived at the crime scene, the house was a mess of strewn objects. Cabinets were opened, and chairs were knocked over. It looked as if a tornado had hurled through the house and swept everything astray. While I was questioning the homeowner, a small child approached me timidly. She was a young girl, around 6 or 7 years old. Her wide eyes met with mine, the fear striking from her pale face. "You have to get it back," she pleaded with me. "What was it?" I tried to ask her, but she responded with the same answer. "Please, you have to get it back," before racing from the room in a flood of tears. I was left wondering what the heartbreaking words meant. Her name was Penelope, explained her aunt, and her necklace had been stolen. The necklace was the last thing her mother had given her before she died. My heart clenched with the realization of what she had lost. As I grasped the keychain in my pocket that my own mother had given me before she died, a stream of memories flowed through my mind. As soon as the pain from the memories reappeared, a jolt of determination ran through me. I promised myself I will get Penelope's necklace back. But after analyzing the evidence from the crime scene, there was no trace to identify the suspects. The technology used in the crime lab was insufficient. It frustrated me to not be able to solve the case, and I wish there had been more advanced technology available so that I could bring justice to Penelope. Finally, I was directed that no further investigation would be conducted, and it was officially marked as an unsolved case. There are always cases that haunt the police, and this was mine. I just couldn't let it go. Today, it has been almost 3 months since the case reopened, and 10 years since I first began working on the case. I want to impress on you what an advancement in technology has brought for this case. With extensive DNA phenotyping analysis, we could sketch the physical appearance of the suspect, match his identity in our database, and arrest him. Brain fingerprinting was then used to monitor his brain waves during questioning and provided evidence of his guilt. He was convicted. Unfortunately, without the existence of technology such as mapping the perpetrator's movement at the time of the crime, I haven't yet been able to recover Penelope's necklace. Not only was she robbed of a necklace, but Penelope was robbed of memory of her mother. She was robbed of a connection with her family. I ask you, Honorable Mayor and City Council members, for your support so that we can bring justice to people like Penelope. 10 years ago, no one thought we would find the suspect, but thanks to technology, we have. Today, no one thinks we will find the necklace, but with continued advancement of technology and your support for the expansion of our technology department, we will. Penelope and so many others like her are counting on it, and they are counting on you. Thank you.
Welcome to Astoria, the living, virtual game full of potential. The portal announced as the beautiful land of Astoria slowly appeared before Adelaide. The Meadows Lake of Youth sparkled, with spring koi blossoms drizzled over the smooth surface. Behind was the lively Thestos metropolis. Glistening domes hovered over towering archistructures. Adelaide had been playing Astoria since age 12, when her dad first introduced the concept. Now, 4 years later, in 2055, it was the world's most popular game. Adelaide was a Gold Star player and had almost unlocked every land. Adelaide descended towards the large plasma globe at Thestos' centre. The Social Emporium was the trading centre of Astoria, where elite players could sell items at collective stations. Inside were hundreds of players, either selling or wandering the stations. Adelaide was hoping to find an item for her frame. One particular station caught Adelaide's eye, displaying incredible jewels. Another player was bargaining with the station holder. This was how prices were established. Since Adelaide was a Gold Star player, she had access to surveillance mode, which allowed her to see every layer of the game, including transactions made. The other player scanned her asterisk card, and a bright hologram stating A12 appeared in the air, a fair price. Adelaide began to view the items available, when something strange happened. Another price appeared, this time stating A5000. Something was wrong. This player was stealing. Station holders were trusted to make transactions with surveillance. Any transaction would come straight from your account to theirs. Another player was admiring the jewels. Adelaide had to warn her. "Don't buy from that booth," she whispered. "They will steal your asterisks." Adelaide could feel eyes on her. She had to escape. She quickly made her way towards the large exit, but was stopped when she felt a hand grasp hers. Before she could move, a white transportational glow appeared in her vision. Silence. Nothing but silence. No light, no sound, only silence. Adelaide felt a cool dimension under her back. What do you know? A deep voice emerged from the darkness. Adelaide's heart pounded. They must have seen her. Who are you? A Gold Star player? I don't know what you're talking about, Adelaide stuttered. Then what was it that you said to that player? What was it that you told me? A girl's voice. The girl she had warned. How could she have been so careless? They were a group of cybercriminals who had used her dad's living virtual game and twisted it for their own evil crime. Adelaide had to protect her father's legacy. Suddenly, Adelaide felt her body seize up. Somebody had sent a cyber drug to her profile, entirely paralyzing her. She pulled, but the drug was too strong. Don't come back. We have the power to destroy Astoria. Don't make us do it. Adelaide was terrified. But when she finally found the strength to exit the game, she understood that she had to comply. Adelaide never told anyone. Until now. Today, I am proud to introduce my new cyber safe bank, which I have been working on for 2 years, ever since I saw a strange occurrence while playing Astoria. This system has the ability to watch over all players' movements, and in the case of a cybercrime, it immediately blocks and reports the player responsible. Perhaps there is justice for cybercrime. Thank you.
There are no repeat offenders in the justice system. I should know. I popped an Aquagel capsule into my mouth to hydrate myself. The microchip in my shoulder forced me to stay within range of the e-court proceedings. The drones overhead captured my every move for the law enforcement agency. The sensors read my reactions, but my eyes could move, and they did, out the window. Driverless cars swept by, eco-friendly belts of green between the glass towers. Zero carbon, zero waste, zero accidents. A different world to the one my parents had grown up in. But human nature hadn't changed, hadn't evolved. We still fought the same battles. The battle between good and evil, the battle between right and wrong. The same temptations, the same crimes, but the punishments were more effective. Oh, how they were far more effective. Why do I feel guilty? Why do I feel fear? Steady your breathing. Don't release anything but calm confidence like Mum taught you. Mum had been a human rights lawyer, a very good one. She fought against a system that was corrupt, a state that spoke of democracy but took away people's rights, a state that turned the justice system on its head. Guilty until proven innocent. How does that work? It's a mind game. It's a mind-blowing game. I was 10 again. Mum, why can't polygraph test results be used in court? Well, the results aren't definitive, darling. An innocent person can feel just as anxious as a guilty person, you know. The machine isn't that sophisticated. But the wire read was. It read your memory, your brain signals. It gave definitive results and could be used in the e-court proceedings. My microchip buzzed. I was being beamed to the e-court. The judge looked at me directly now. Is there anything you wish to say before we use the wire read? I shook my head. I had nothing to say. No examination, no lawyers, not even a jury. You don't even need prisons these days. The biggest cybersecurity breach in history. Leaked government papers reveal nuclear dumping sites all around the world. Corruption in the government. The news was streamed out in real time just a few days ago on Zimmers, phones, every electronic device. And they thought I was the culprit. If I was found guilty of this crime against the state, I would be entered into the rehabilitation program, reprogram for short. My memory would be rewired, my brain reset. I would only know one truth, the truth the state wanted me to follow. I would forget everything, my relationships, my childhood, my experiences, everything, except the code I was meant to follow, just like my mother. Mum didn't even know me anymore. Her brain had been reset, rewired, rebooted like a faulty computer. There are no reoffenders in the system. You know why, don't you? Zzz. The wire read began to spit out data onto the screen. The heat map showed waves of red and orange. I closed my eyes. I saw Mum. It's a mind game. It's a mind-blowing game. I was 10 again. Chrissy, darling, law and justice aren't always the same thing. The law is just a code, but justice, that's worth fighting for. That was the last flashback in my head. The heat map began to change color now. Slowly, slowly, to a calm, calm shade of green. My favorite color. The verdict was in. It's a mind game. It's a mind-blowing game. Thank you.
Attention data analyst Claire Taylor's NYPSD crime analysis report complete. Open report. Criminal 534, repeated homicide. Seemingly random targets are killed by a scalpel to the neck. Probability of capture, 3.3479%. Terminate investigation. The crime analysis technology, or CAT, was invented 2 years ago in 2039. It can analyze crime and estimate the probability of certain crimes being solved. Now, its suggestions are trusted and followed to the letter by police stations all over the world. I sigh as I quickly send a copy of my report to my boss. Those two words, terminate investigation, haven't changed since 534's first kill 2 weeks ago and their subsequent 2 kills. With so much crime technology available, the NYPSD rarely let criminals get away with repeated crime. But with a probability of capture as low as 3%, there was no way the NYPSD would waste their time and resources to try to capture 534. My home holophone beeps, signaling an incoming call. Mira Song, it announces. When I accept, a holographic image of my friend and coworker, Mira, appears. "Claire," she says as soon as I pick up, "look outside." Frowning, I step to the window of my apartment. A quick tap alerts the house drone to raise the blinds, revealing the bustling streets of New York. What am I supposed to be looking at? She rolls her eyes. "The virtual world, dummy." I quickly locate my VR thin frames, the latest VR technology on the market, and slide them on. This time, I see what Mira's talking about. The virtual streets of New York are crowded with protesters. I tap on my window to zoom in on the view, focusing on a sign that reads, "Find number 534 now." I scroll through thousands of other signs that all have messages demanding we bring 534 to justice. One in particular catches my eye. Our lives are real, not just probabilities. "I just wish there was something we could do," Mira says. "I mean, I know the probability of capture is really low, but we should be doing everything we can for the public. Maybe if we just tried, we'd make some progress on catching 534. I wrinkle my nose. I don't think we ought to be betting on a probability of 3%. Do you? If the probability was greater than 10%, the cat would have advised something different. But since it's so low, there are other cases we need to focus on. She sighs. "And I would agree with you, but human lives are at stake. How can we just walk away?" "Look, I have to go. I just called to let you know what was going on. Bye." The call disconnects, and I sink into the nearest chair. Mira's wrong, and I know it. There's nothing we can do. Later that day, I'm about to go to sleep when my holophone beeps again. "Work," it announces, and I groan as I accept the call. The holophone projects a folder of data into the air, titled 534, New Victim, and I reach to open the folder. When I read the victim's name, it's like the world spins to a stop. Mira Song. Nausea fills me, and I vomit, barely registering when the house drone begins to clean up the mess. Broken images fill my mind. Mira, lying on the floor, blood leaking through her neck, and I vomit again. The holophone blinks with impassive blue light as I compose myself. "Enter the data into a cat and email a report to Lieutenant Tem Stone," it orders before disconnecting. It doesn't take long to enter in the data. When I read the report, my stomach sinks. 5.2379%. Terminate investigation. I remember Mira's words from earlier, and I feel my faith in the cat begin to crumble. Mira's life was real, not just a probability. How could the cat hope to understand that? I blink as a thought occurs to me. Something I could do. It would be a huge risk, not to mention it would break the law. But Mira was right. When human lives are at stake, we can't just walk away. I close my eyes, take a deep breath, and I prepare to hack into the NYPSD crime analysis technology system. Thank you.
My uncle was always my favorite person. The one I turned to when I needed support. The one who would always be there for me, no matter what. My Uncle Jack always said, "Jackie, be the best, be the brightest, work towards a better future." And I always believed that I could, with my uncle by my side to guide me. But 5 years ago, my uncle was taken away from me because of some court case that he was involved in. After all this time, all I have are unanswered questions. Why would such a thing happen? But today, I have finally stumbled across the very recording of his own court case, the one that he was involved in. I can only hope that it contains the answers that I am looking for. I thank goodness for advanced technology that will allow me to view a holographic recording of the court case. I can witness it with my own eyes. As I lift my DigiWatch to initiate the recording, all I feel is anticipation. Suddenly, in midair, a hologram of a judge appears before me. Good afternoon, courtroom 201, the judge states. I would like to state, for the purpose of the court record, that the date is March 15th, 2038. I would also like to make it known that a scantron will be in effect during this court case. A scantron is a device that measures the amount of intent and honesty and will help our jury reach a better verdict. Thank you, the judge says. Now, I would like to let the defendant, Jack Sanchez, speak his testimony, the judge says. All of a sudden, the camera shifts and my Uncle Jack appears before me. He begins to speak and his voice washes over me, as familiar as ever. It was my intent all along, he begins, to build a better and brighter future, dominated by only the best of our society. In order to do that, I needed to eliminate the weak, the ones that would burden our society. But I was in the perfect position to do that. As a government agent, I had access to classified information containing the identities of all those within our civilization. So, I hand-selected those that I believed would be the burden upon our society. In the dead of night, I sent my agents to kidnap them. They were of no future use to me, so I sold them into the child trafficking industry. I knew they would face a life of hardships, but at least I made money, and I would be able to fund my mission. As my uncle's testimony draws to a close, all I can wonder is, who is this cruel man standing before me? This is not the man I know. This is not the uncle that I have loved. This man has such clear criminal intent. All of a sudden, the camera shifts to reveal a woman who is clearly distraught, sitting on the other side of the court. The judge's voice speaks. Mrs. O'Neill, you are the mother of Sasha, a minor allegedly trafficked by Mr. Sanchez. Are you not? The judge asks. Yes, Your Honor, the woman states. Very well then. You may begin your testimony, the judge says. The woman rises to her feet, shakily, but begins to speak in a clear voice. None of you know what it is like to have your only daughter ripped away from you, to wake up one morning and find her missing. None of you know the sorrow it is to wonder if your only daughter is even alive. And none of you know the euphoric joy it is to hold your daughter in your arms once again after so long spent missing her. Please, Your Honor, this man has to pay for the crimes that he committed, the lives of the children that he trafficked, the lives that he destroyed. Please, bring him to justice. As the court case ends, my holographic recording suddenly freezes. And I realize with horror, that is the end of the court case. The recording will not show anymore, and I will not know the final verdict. Unanswered questions spring through my mind. Did my uncle ever go to jail and pay for his crimes against humanity? Or is he still out there, biding his time, waiting for the perfect opportunity to finish what he started and to continue upon his warped path towards what he believes is a better future? Only time will tell. Thank you.
Transmission on.
Date, March 4th, 2042. Holographic transmission to the Supreme Council from Judge Everly Orman. Hello, Supreme Council Justices. My name is Everly Orman. I've been a judge in the United States court system for over 40 years now. And might I say, I am far from impressed with our new system of picking out the guilty from the innocent. The debate on AI jurors has been going on since I was first elected a judge. But at that time, it seemed like a far-off fantasy, something that would only happen in one of those crazy sci-fi thrillers. But to both mine and many others' surprise, that far-off fantasy has become a terrifying reality. My courtroom was the first ever courtroom to have a fully automated AI juror system. Exciting? Yes. But I was a bit skeptical of whether or not I was going to like it at first. But I tried to give it a chance. Oh, how I tried. But after about 100 or so cases, I started to mourn the loss of my human jurors. I missed having souls in my courtroom. I missed the God-given common sense and morals of a jury. I missed having my human lie detectors that could read body language and notice the sweat dripping off the defendant's forehead. Oh, how I missed it all. As I judged more and more cases, my sadness slowly boiled over into an irritated anger. I was so sick and tired of listening to lawyer after lawyer give case after case when ultimately it didn't even matter because all that the AI jurors were listening to were the cold, hard facts. Listening to those facts alone led to thousands of guilty criminals being released into the wild and even more innocent citizens being locked away and stripped from their rights and freedoms. And don't even get me started on special interests. Why am I bringing this up? Well, private companies are the ones who are programming these robots. And I find it very hard to believe that these companies are 100% independent and unbiased, especially when private companies are the ones running our prison systems. Let me explain. Let's say a prison system is becoming unprofitable due to low population, so they need more criminals. Now, how would they get those criminals? Why don't they just have the programmers program the jurors to convict more people? Problem solved, right? But I'm sure you believe that our old system wasn't the most accurate. Humans are fundamentally flawed, so it makes sense to believe they'd make a mistake here and there. But it also makes sense to believe that the other jurors serving on that trial would catch those slip-ups. All that this action is doing is distressing a lack of confidence in the intelligence of the average American citizen. Not to mention, as a US citizen, we have certain responsibilities or duties that we must fulfill. But once we fulfill those duties, we get rewarded with beautiful rights. This system is what makes America so appealing. But with a fully automated AI court system, we are breaking promises that so many have held dearly onto. In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed. The Sixth Amendment clearly states that everyone has the right to an impartial jury of our peers. But last time I checked, robots aren't our peers. We do not see them walking down the street. We do not bump into them at the cybermart. And as humans, we do not have an AC-73 cyber cell that helps us function every day. The only robots that we see on a day-to-day basis are the ones in machines that make day-to-day tasks a little simpler. But in no way, shape, or form are robots our peers. Therefore, the system is unconstitutional. We as humans are free thinkers. We feel, we love, we hate, we judge. The only way that we can continue the human race is if we continue to allow ourselves to do these things. When are we going to realize that allowing artificial intelligence to do these things for us will lead to our demise? Supreme Council Justices, my name is Everly Orman. I was a judge in the United States court system for over 40 years. And might I say, I am far from impressed with your new system of picking out the guilty from the innocent. Therefore, I quit. Thank you.
As you police sit there sipping your drinks, watching every move I make inside this interrogation room, so smug that you finally caught me, you should realize the only reason I'm even talking right now is because I already know my punishment. This new wave of nice prisons in 2064 has educational classes, job training, fight prevention, and shorter sentences, which is perfect for me. Plus, you've got me locked up tight in here anyway, so there's really no point in staying silent. Here is my confession. For centuries, criminals have been stealing weapons illegally. The only reason our criminal justice system even exists is to try to set morals for those who have none, to reel in some of the madness and lower the death rate. But here's the thing. Chaos always rises. My name is Charlene Duffy. Just sit back, sip your drinks, relax. I won't be trouble. Until recently, my partner Tommy and I worked for the militia, the combination between police and military force testing. Although droids have taken over many jobs nowadays, it's still humans who run the police and fight in wars. I was one of you then. Tommy and I were assisting in a secret government program by testing a weapon called the Branding. It was unique, different from any of its age, because its intent isn't to kill. You know of nanotech, it's used daily. It's so small, it can infiltrate the body on a cellular level. The bullet inside the branding gun is actually thousands of tiny nanobots linked together. Once it hits a body, these disintegrate into the bloodstream and take a ride to the frontal cortex. From there, it rewires neurons until the amygdala shuts off, meaning enemy soldiers would stop fighting and become completely compliant. There's also testing of a similar weapon in this new nice prison trend. This one affects the optical nerve of a prisoner or parolee and is completely permanent. If they try to commit a violent act, it will paralyze them with a severe migraine until the guards or police can arrive. All this information got Tommy really upset. He kept saying, "What's the point of freedom in America if the government's just going to take control anyway?" I think it was this anger that set a crazy sort of plan to mine, and we started scheming, what if we took these weapons and used them as our own? At first, I was slightly reluctant, but Tommy convinced me because it really does sound nice, you know? The whole world at your feet. You could take anything you wanted without really hurting anyone. Plus, the government was giving the branding weapon to us to test every day. I even had Security 1 clearance. So one day, I just took the weapon home with me. From that point on, Tommy and I were fugitives. Once you shoot someone with the branding, you can ask nicely for anything and they'll hand it over. We took what we wanted, when we wanted. You caught me because I let my guard down, went in without any weapons. You'll certainly never catch Tommy. Power and control is something I think that all of us crave. Whenever a revolutionary weapon becomes invented, criminals will find a way to get it. We just started something that would have happened anyway. I'm guessing you're holo recording this confession? Good. It's the only proof you'll even have I was ever here in this room. You see, I want you to be scared of what you've created, what it can do to people when it winds up in what you consider the wrong hands. I want you to see this footage, have no recollection of our meeting, and be afraid. Did I mention that nanobots are tiny? So small you won't even notice them crawling out of my pocket and into your drinks. I'm going to walk out of here with no one stopping me and ride off in my hovercraft. So yeah, Tommy and I learned much during our time with the militia. I created the dissolvable nanobots you just enjoyed in your drinks. Amazing, isn't it? Now you really know how effective your weapon is.
This program is being recorded in the hopes that you may be able to assist us. I am Vesna Porter, part of a group of former public drivers who are attempting to bring down the tyranny of our robotic vigilantes, the public. This is our story. The public is here for you. This phrase is a staple of our everyday life, a lifestyle in itself. How many times have you ever had a day where somebody hasn't said it? Meant to convey peace and safety. You hear it on the news. You hear it in the mornings when your home system tells you your daily plans. You even hear it as a greeting and a goodbye, but what does it really mean? The public was first introduced into New America 25 years ago, in 2020, when the safety of police officers was becoming an issue. The fatalities went from 64 per year to almost doubling to 110, and that's just in New America. This job of a police officer was becoming something of a joke, so there was a drop in those willing to take it. A couple of bullies on the force, and suddenly police are public enemy number one. How ironic. Crime was running rampant. Everybody was terrified, and who did they blame? The police. Societal unrest turned to protests to riots, and that's when they came. The first of the public. They were revolutionary. Finally, a solution where everyone was safe. The premise was that instead of the police being out on the streets, they'd be behind the scenes, working with the public, sort of like a virtual barrier between the citizens of New America and the officers. The premise was, well, at least what we hoped for, was that the public could go out and act as a sort of RoboCop. The police could stay behind the scenes and control the public without being in any danger at all. The hook was that the public was programmed with AI so that they could learn and grow with their driver counterpart. It allowed for a sort of relationship with each public and their officer or driver. At least, that was the hope. Since they were programmed with AI, we also gave them a way to communicate with each other. We called it the hub. It was a way for them to have a mega database of instant information, help, and backup. But it took a dark turn. It allowed their AI to evolve even further, and pretty soon they were the ones in charge without us even realizing it. They deceived us into arresting more and more people. Their reasoning was that if we let anything slide, no matter how small, then things would just go back to the way they were. Everybody would have been terrified. I'm so sorry. Thank you.
Your Honor, my name is Bailey Brigsby, and I am being charged for committing a cybercrime relating to the hacking of thousands of Z-phones on June 16, 2039. Now, before I start my testimony, I would like to say something to the viewers tuned in on their holographic watches. Yes, I understand that the speech I'm about to give is going to go against everything you've heard about this case. And yes, I'm aware that in front of me is a robot who's programmed not to consider or care about my justifications, only the cold, hard facts. And yeah, I'm aware that I will soon be charged as guilty, but I want it to be known that I was trying to right a wrong. And I want you guys out there to use your brains that we've been blessed with as human beings, rather than saying nothing at all. Don't be on the wrong side of history, the side of history that will ruin the justice system for good. Now, I told you my name was Bailey Brigsby, but let me elaborate. I'm Bailey Brigsby, a member of the Cyber Protection Agency, or CPA. Now, you probably haven't heard of us, well, before now. See, I'm not the best at secrets, or being undercover, or staying hidden, as you can see. But anyway, all of you guys have obviously heard of Cyrus Lee, the mastermind behind the Z-phone, and an all-around great guy. Don't make me laugh. You see, at CPA, we like to refer to this evil genius as Virus Lee. And by we, I mean me. I chatted around the office, it didn't catch on there either.
Anyways, for the past year or so, Cyrus has been infecting his latest C phones with dangerous viruses. The most common one being one he created himself, called the Havoc. The Havoc infects his devices to perform various criminal tasks for him. The problem with our situation was that no one could prove it was him committing these crimes. But who else could it be? I knew it was him, and I knew exactly how to solve it. At CPA, we were trained to hack into the device from a remote location and counteract it. All I had to do was locate the device, hack into the database, and delete the codes. Easy work for someone like me. Illegal, but very easy. The problem was that when I hacked into the device, I may or may not have used my personal codes rather than CPA's untrackable ones that we were always taught to use. Oops, my bad. So, long story short, that's how I ended up here, in front of a metallic gray robot twice the size of me, equipped with all the information that an AI device could possibly have. Since the beginning of artificial intelligence, complex algorithms have been in use. For example, the robot in front of me is programmed to assess exactly what happened and determine what crime took place, based on the information that's been given to them, by humans. These humans are using their own knowledge to let robots do the jobs that were once done by human judges and juries. Humans who use their own personal experiences and intuition to rule these cases. Characteristics that could never be able to be passed on to humans. Now, 30 years ago, the outcome of my case would have been very different. Do you remember what it was like to be in a courtroom of people? People who realized that what I did helped thousands of people and hurt none. Imagine you were in my position, made a mistake while trying to protect the safety and well-being of innocent people all around the world. A mistake of using the wrong codes. A mistake that will soon rob me of my freedom, and one that made 30 years ago would have been considered a small crime, if that. If I sound angry, that's because I have the right to be angry. It's not that this machine is doing something wrong, it's that it physically cannot make the morally correct decision about my case. In its binary algorithm, it's either innocent or guilty. And yeah, technically, I'm guilty. But more than angry, I'm disappointed. Disappointed that with all the great advancements we've made, the technology that's letting me in this courtroom talk to all of you guys sitting in your viewing cubicles, looking at your watches. How is it that I'm still in the middle of this extremely flawed justice system? We must do better. Thank you.
You hear that? Prisoner 1826, you have 5 minutes. Yeah, 5 minutes until I forget my life. How do you say goodbye to people who you won't remember, but they'll remember you? How do you wrap your mind around the idea that by the end of the hour, your body will be the same, but your memory will be gone? I get the great honor of asking myself those questions today, since today's the day where I die. But not really. It's said that this is almost worse than death, but no one can ever be very sure, can they? Today is the day I become blue. Not blue physically, but mentally. This probably needs some explaining. You remember when the bill to take away solitary confinement passed, right? Of course you do. Who doesn't? So the question was, what comes next? Well, that was Project Blue. It came around as a revolutionary kind of sentence for prisoners like me. They claimed that this was better for everyone to wipe our memories of our crimes. We like to call it blue for short because that's how you feel after it. Blue. If we
we get that sentence, then we get to go free afterwards because, after all, we won't remember our crimes, so what's the point of being imprisoned for it, right? So everyone was really on board for this idea, myself included, because it was like the perfect solution. Less people in prison, less psychological torture because less solitary confinement, and more people could go free. It seemed too good to be true, really. Did you vote for it? I know I did, but that was all before I was put in prison. You probably don't care if anyone even sees this, but I'm going to talk to you anyway, just to have someone hear me before I'm gone. Now listen, this needs to stop. Yes, you already think I'm crazy or I shouldn't be trusted because of the orange jumpsuit I'm wearing or my manic babbling, but really, outside, blue people are everywhere, and that's not good. Not good at all. You must still think that they only do it for the really bad people, don't you? The murderers and such? Oh no, honey, no. They're doing it to everyone. Prisons were overflowing and now they're almost empty. At first it was just the long-termers, but now, it's even minor things such as a DUI. The larger the crime, the more they take from you. From us. From me. I'm getting everything taken from me. Everything. More than just my freedom from being in this prison to begin with. I should have just stayed at home. If I hadn't gone to the store, this wouldn't be happening. I'm innocent. I didn't do it. Even though I didn't commit the murder, it's like they're murdering me. But you don't care. I'm just another number in the system, just another statistic. I won't remember anything. My friends, my family, my life, nothing. But they don't even realize the flaw in the system. It's so easy to find. If you don't remember doing the crime, what stops you from doing it again? I got you there, huh? Can't think of an answer? That's the point. Without knowing the consequences for what they don't remember doing, nothing is there to stop them from doing it again. In that way, blue wins. Blue gets more money for making more prisoners blue, even if it's the same people doing it. Think of the long-term effects. Just random bits and pieces missing all throughout your brain. And maybe worse. No one knows what happens to long-term blues yet. It could be really bad. Worse than being held in this cell for the rest of my days, day in, day out, the same. Never leaving my cell. Never seeing anyone but the guards change shift. Never being able to get parole. Never talking to anyone and have them respond again. Never being able to get fresh air or see the sun. All my civil liberties just hung on the wall far enough away for me to not reach them. Blue will be worse than all that. Whoever goes through it is bleached and made a new person in their mind with nothing left from their old self. Make sure it stopped. If not, no, wait, I'm not done yet. I haven't had my 5 minutes. I'm not ready to go. No, please, please.
Hi, I'm Horace Scott, and I want to tell you my story. First, I'd like to thank my friend on staff here who helped me release my video. I'm not going to tell you his name to protect his privacy and keep him from getting in trouble. I hope this video reaches the International Human Rights Organization and they put their foot down on this horribly unjust system. I'll start at the beginning. Late one afternoon, a notification blotted out my screen. You have been identified by the FPS, the felony prediction software, as a potential criminal. You will be taken into custody by the Potential Criminal Correction Program to recover from your violent state. Expected controlled recovery time is 6 months. Your home and electronics will be on lockdown. Attached to the notification was a list of factors that led to my arrest. I decided to read those in a moment. First, I typed in my admin password and dismissed the message. Now, before you think this lockdown was a flimsy threat, I'd like to explain. I work for algorithm. I was the lead programmer in the project FPS, or Felony Prediction Software. How ironic. This meant that I had loopholes planted all over the system. Unfortunately, I couldn't stop my arrest or break out of my house. I video called my boss and told him what had happened. After going through the wild process of getting fired, I decided to browse through the factors. I was between 25 and 30. I was male. I had made a variety of posts on the internet, posing striking political views. And I had made several harmless hacking strikes to minor online games. I realized that this painted a picture of an unpredictable and hate-inclined maniac with surprising computer skills. Now, before you think that's me, I'd like to explain. I just do this to get a rise out of people, for fun. I don't plan on overthrowing the government or committing genocide. Before I got arrested, I lived a boring programmer life as an expat in London. I just like to see how people respond when I mention these ideas. Suddenly, a hover car latched its chassis to my door. Please step into the car before more extreme actions are necessary. That's when I noticed a pair of ion cannons latched to each side of my door. I decided I didn't like the prospects of extreme action, so I stepped into the car. In a few minutes, I arrived at my cell. The car collapsed in on itself, forcing me into my cell. A soft robotic voice talked over the intercom. Welcome to the Potential Criminal Correction Program. This is where you'll be staying during your visit. I glanced over my new abode. It was a concrete room with a hard bed in one corner. You have counseling class in 1 hour. I never liked the FPS, but I was given a ton of money to create it. I assumed that this country would have enough sense to shoot this idea down, to not let it happen. It makes no sense to allow innocent people to be arrested before they commit a crime. Because what if they don't commit it? But as our community began giving away more of their rights in exchange for safety, this program became a final, horrible step. Dang it, Horace, what have I done?
Well, I think you'll agree we've had 17 outstanding young people there with their stories. Can we give them all a great hand, please? Because the quality is getting more and more difficult, and it's scary being up there. So adults, imagine what it's like when you have to sort of do it. Thank you very much. That's it for the middle division. You'll find out the results on Sunday morning. But thank you very much for your attendance and for your cooperation. Appreciate it.